This is the story of a gypsy apprentice. She was a student who had just graduated from tarot card reading. This young fortune teller was named Pin. Pin was a cheerful girl who didn't think too much about life. She loved and was passionate about tarot reading with all her heart. She decided to invest in learning, determined to become a true tarot fortune teller. Pin had a few close friends. Each of them wanted a side job before finding a stable career. Some friends suggested Pin try selling things online. They even advised her to use apps to edit pictures for better sales. They would review products, making them look so good that the seller appeared more beautiful. But in reality, the seller looked ordinary like everyone else. Pin disliked such deception. She told her friends she'd rather choose to be a fortune teller. After finishing her studies, she decided to set up a fortune-telling table at a local market. There, people walked back and forth endlessly. Pin arranged her table, set out the tarot deck, and placed a ceremonial tray neatly. "Ready to tell fortunes," she said to herself brightly. Pin sat waiting for a long time, but no one came for a reading. She kept glancing around at the people passing by, until her eyes caught sight of a young man. He looked handsome, well-dressed, and around his early 30s. The two of them locked eyes for a moment. Then he walked straight toward Pin.
"How much is the fee?"
he asked flatly. Pin was a little startled before answering, 99 baht. She scratched her head and gave an awkward smile, still a beginner. Realizing she was in the role of a fortune teller, she quickly adjusted her demeanor. She invited the young man to sit down. He sat down immediately without hesitation. His expression was stern and lifeless. Pin handed him the ceremonial tray and a deck of cards. She bowed her head slightly and prayed for permission from karmic spirits. Then she lifted her head and looked at him again. He seemed strange, like his mind isn't even here, Pin thought. The man shuffled the cards slowly, his eyes vacant. Pin asked, "Are you ready for the reading?" He jolted as if waking from a trance. Then he answered shakily,
"I'm ready."
The young man picked 3 cards and laid them on the table. Pin slowly revealed all 3 cards. The moment she saw the cards, she was stunned, because all the cards represented problems and sorrow. How am I supposed to interpret this? Pin thought to herself. She secretly guessed the man might have been heartbroken or recently broken up. Pin looked up and softly asked, "Do you have a girlfriend?" The man replied briefly.
"Yes, I do."
Then he asked his question.
"The woman I'm thinking of right now, what does she feel about me?"
Pin hesitated, but then answered, "She's feeling conflicted about you." The man looked sad and said,
"Yes, we've been having problems."
After that, he placed a 100 baht note on the tray. Then he stood up and walked away slowly. Pin watched his back with suspicion. But then she suddenly felt chills run through her, because she saw the figure of a long-haired woman clinging to his shoulders. The ghostly figure turned to look at her and gave a sinister smile. Pin quickly rubbed her eyes, thinking she must be hallucinating. But when she looked again, the figure was gone. Only the young man remained, walking away wearily. That day, Pin only had a few customers before packing up to return to her room. She was exhausted, and by evening she cooked instant noodles and ate in front of the TV. The news was reporting a mysterious case of a woman falling to her death. Neighbors testified that she was reclusive and rarely socialized. Police reviewed CCTV footage and found a man visiting her. He forced the door open and pushed the woman off the balcony immediately. The footage showed her falling to her death right before their eyes. Pin sat watching the news in shock, her heart pounding irregularly. Later, the news announced that police had caught the suspect. He had fled from the forest, looking terrified and exhausted. While being caught, he cried out.
Please arrest me. I can't take this anymore.
Pin widened her eyes in absolute shock because she immediately recognized the man's face. It was the very first customer who had come for a tarot reading with her. The young man confessed to the police that he was the one who pushed the woman off the building. He cried, his hands trembling, and said he deeply regretted it. He explained that he had met the woman through the online world. She was an internet idol, beautiful, attractive, and followed by many people. He had unknowingly fallen in love with her. Every time she posted, he followed her closely. One day, she posted that her mother was gravely ill and needed urgent money. Without hesitation, he transferred money to her right away. But in reality, her mother was perfectly fine. The woman had fabricated the story just to trick him out of money. He kept spending on her, believing she had feelings for him. But later, she started to distance herself because she had found a new target. Enraged and hurt, he began investigating her whereabouts. Eventually, he tracked her down to her apartment. When he saw her in person, he was shocked she looked nothing like her photos online. She had edited her photos with apps, completely different from reality. He asked, "So what exactly is this between us?" But she immediately replied, "I don't know you," and tried to slam the door in his face. In a fit of rage, he forced the door open and accidentally pushed her off the building. After pushing her off the building, he immediately ran away. He fled into tall grass and hid in an abandoned house. Exhaustion eventually caused him to fall asleep. In his dream, he saw the dead woman walking toward him. She grabbed his neck. Her bloodshot eyes filled with hatred. Blood gushed from her mouth, dripping endlessly onto the ground. Terrified, he jolted awake with a scream. Realizing it was just a dream, he sighed in relief, but as he tried to leave, he kept walking in circles, never getting anywhere. The more he walked, the heavier his shoulders and neck felt, until he glanced at the river and saw his own reflection. The reflection. The dead woman was sitting on his shoulders. She sat still, her eyes blazing like fire. He screamed and ran wildly, unable to form words. He kept repeating, "I'm scared. I'm sorry. I'll turn myself in." At last, he staggered out of the forest. He ran into the police searching for him and surrendered at once. The young man told his story to the reporters until he broke down in tears. Pin sat in her room watching the news, shocked. She felt some sympathy for him, but she knew he was truly guilty. He had let anger and obsession consume him until he killed. But the dead woman was also at fault, for she deceived others. Deception can bring unexpected disaster upon oneself. Pin recalled her friends who had urged her to sell things online and to use apps to fake beauty in order to deceive buyers. She shuddered, realizing she must warn herself never to go down that path. Pin turned to look at the tarot cards resting on the tall shelf. She remembered that day, the day she saw the ghostly woman clinging to the man's shoulders. That image was something she could never forget. Pin let out a long sigh and told herself she would pause tarot reading for now. If one day her heart grew stronger, she would start again. That night, she turned off the TV and walked into her bedroom, weary. But the story of that first customer, she would never forget.